Hello students and my dear friends, I am Dr. Shalini Shukla and today is 28th of September 2021, Tuesday. Inspiration of the day is never lose either win or learn. In today's discussion, we are going to cover these articles. So let's start with article number 1 given on page number 4. Modi launches Health ID digital record for citizens. सो कल यानी मंडे को प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी ने आयुष्मान भारत मिशन लॉन्च किया एंड एज पर हिम दिस पर्टिकुलर इनिशिएटिव डिजिटल आयुष्मान भारत मिशन would bring about revolutionary change in India's health facility. Apart from improvement in health facility, this particular digital Ayushman Bharat scheme will also improve the ease of living and digitally protect the health record of citizens. So, at a very initial level, this particular digital Ayushman Bharat mission will create a seamless online platform, and that particular online platform will be interoperable within the all digital ecosystem so that information can be shared seamlessly. So, this particular mission may be one more feather in the cap of digital India mission, and referring to the Jan Dhan Aadhaar Mobile Trinity, that in short we call as JAM. The Prime Minister said that this particular digital infrastructure was taking everything from ration to prashan to the common individual life in a very fast and transparent manner, and therefore these sort of digital Ayushman Bharat mission or scheme will also enable the innovation and creativity in the field of health infrastructure. And as per our Prime Minister, there is no such big connected infrastructure anywhere in the world as India is planning to have in digital Ayushman Bharat mission. So, how this particular mission will work? Basically, under this mission, there will be the online platform. There will be one online platform, and that online platform will connect the digital health solutions of the hospital all across the country. It means nooks and corners of the country, and the hospital established into that particular part will be connected through this online platform. And definitely this interconnectability and interoperability will provide the seamless exchange of information, seamless exchange of services among all these healthcare centers and hospital all across the country, and every citizen would be able to get a health ID card and their health record would be digitally protected under this particular digital Ayushman Bharat mission. So there may be server where the health record of each and every citizen will be stored, and just by entering the health ID and other security features, every hospital on the permission of individual patients can see their medical history so that the better treatment, better healthcare facility can be provided to particular patient. Apart from improvement in service delivery, this particular online infrastructure or online Ayushman Bharat mission will also improve the innovation and creativity in terms of health infrastructure and health services, because there will be large amount of data and that data will help in analyzing the need of policy framework, analyzing the need of new product and services development, and definitely helps the government, policy makers and strategists to take a informed decision on health infrastructure and healthcare services. Experts, however, raise the one of the very important concern, that is the privacy concern. So whenever any sort of online or digital platform is launched, the privacy concern is one of the very important imperatives. If you remember, even at the time of Aadhaar also, Supreme Court has given number of judgment on Aadhaar and on privacy of data that is stored on Aadhaar portal. So privacy is one of the important concern here, because digitalization of health record of the people, especially in the absence of data protection law and data protection authority, this particular medical or health record may be misused. If any person or any individual do not want to disclose their health record to anyone, so their privacy may be hindered in this case. If all the records of that particular individual is digitalized, it means hospitals, doctors, medical staffs can easily see that particular medical history or health history of that individual. So privacy concern is one of the very important concern here that experts are raising. And as per the experts, if there is no privacy, data privacy law in India, though data protection law in India, data protection authority in India, in that case, how government will ensure that this particular data that is going to stored on this online platform or the server will be protected from misuse. Misuse may be misused by any company or any other country if data is leaked on a large basis. And Digital Rights Organization Access now has said in a letter to the Health Ministry that the use of unique identifier imperils privacy and enable the creation or mapping of a complete profile of an individual user or a patient, and which can be used to target them commercially as well as by the state actors. So that particular data leakage may be used for commercial purpose, may be used by state actors in order to differentiate among certain sort of people or citizen. And as per these right organization, these sort of online platforms or scheme must not be permitted. So how government will ensure the privacy, how government will ensure the security and data protection under this particular scheme, still it is a big question mark. However, as per the Narendra Modi, digital infrastructure is bringing everything from ration to prashan to the common Indian in a fast and transparent manner, and the way tech is being deployed in governance reform today is unprecedented. So probably and most likely this scheme going to be launched, going to be implemented soon. Launch तो हो गई है कल, but implemented जल्दी हो जाएगी, even after so many concerns by the experts and right organization. अब देख लेते हैं article number 2 that is given on page number 4. New government SPV may get power to acquire, develop PSU land. So the new purpose vehicle that is formed for monetizing the assets of PSUs may also get the power to acquire and develop the land and other assets on case-to-case basis beside renting and leasing them out. Recently, government ने national asset monetization पाइपलाइन और प्रोग्राम लाया था, जिसके तहत PSUs के पास जो भी ऐसे assets पड़े थे, रूटेंट assets पड़े थे जो कि revenue generating नहीं थे, उनको acquire करके they were actually planning to monetize it. Apart from it, जो भी land acquisitions थे PSUs के पास में, जो कि बैरन लैंड के फॉर्म में पड़े थे, अनयूटिलाइज असेट्स के फॉर्म में पड़े थे, उन लैंड के एक्विजिशन को लेकर भी स्कीम लाई गई थी, जिसके तहत PSUs के पास जो भी लैंड अनयूज्ड लैंड पड़ी है उस लैंड को एक्वायर करके यूटिलाइजिंग दोज लैंड असेट्स फॉर सम रेवेन्यू जनरेटिंग project. So for that a special purpose vehicle was formed, and as per today's news, this SPV will get the power of what? Power to acquire the and develop the land and other assets case on case basis. So apart from renting and leasing them, now this particular special purpose vehicle can acquire and develop the land of the public sector enterprises, and the National Land Monetization Corporation will soon be set up under the Companies Act for this purpose and be 100% owned by government of India. So it simply means that for utilizing the unused land of certain public sector undertakings, there is a creation of another public sector undertakings. That public sector undertakings will be National Land Monetization Corporation, and that particular National Land Monetization Corporation will 100% owned by government of India, and this entity will be able to rent, lease, develop, acquire the asset to monetize them for a fee as per the official involved in deliberations. So the authorized share capital for this special purpose vehicle has been pegged at 5,000 crore. So under this, there will be National Land Monetization Corporation, and draft has been prepared on this particular entity, and soon it will be in front of cabinet, and it is most likely that cabinet will approve it. And that is why this special purpose vehicle would be interested with hiring experts and will devise a process to monetize the government building, land of public sector undertakings and government departments. And on behalf of these government departments and public sector undertaking, this particular SPV will also conduct the transaction. So it will house the expert to resolve the dispute. If any dispute arises out of the sale of these lands or these properties, if any dispute arises, there will be the panel of experts that will resolve this dispute. And if any land or any asset of particular PSU cannot be sold, cannot be sell, in that case, this particular special purpose vehicle will have the power to acquire and develop the land or the asset in revenue generating and financially viable projects. So apart from doing the transaction, this special purpose vehicle will also be able to acquire and develop the particular land. And apart from all these power, this particular special purpose vehicle will also work as a advisory or also provide as a advisory services to whom? To those public sector undertakings, to those public sector departments that are facing difficulty or delay in monetizing their assets or in reporting them. So this particular special purpose vehicle will serve the overall purpose of land monetization, and under this they will monetize the land. If they are not able to monetize it, they will acquire and develop it. Even if the particular SPV is not able to acquire and develop it, they will provide the advisory services to those PSUs that how they can convert these particular land assets into revenue generating and viable projects. Above all, this particular special purpose vehicle will also have the panel for dispute resolution. So we can say this will be the all purpose special purpose vehicle basically that will speed up the monetization of lands that are acquired by different public sector undertakings, different public sector organization, departments. And therefore, this National Land Monetization Corporation is going to be established with 100% government equity. Now, let's see the article number 3 that is given on page number 4. Center won't hit market to make up for GST shortfall. So, Center will be borrowing approximately 5.03 trillion. From where? From the market. When? In the second half of this financial year. So it simply means whatever government has planned in budget session in February in terms of borrowing target, that remain unchanged, and government will borrow additional 5.03 trillion in upcoming half year of this particular financial year. But what has included under this? Now GST compensation to state paid to state has all included under this borrowing plan. It means whatever government will borrow from the market as per the budgeted announcement or budget announcement, that particular borrowing may be used for paying the compensation, GST especially, more specifically GST compensation to the states. Why? Because now these days financials of states are going worse. They are facing loss on Discom, they are facing loss in terms of revenue generation because of the pandemic, and in terms of GST compensation, states are also not getting proper pie, and that is why government is planning that whatever government borrowing remain, what the budgeted target remain for half year, government will borrow it. Government will not change any amount, neither it will decrease the borrowing amount nor it will increase the borrowing amount from the market. Whatever government had planned in budget, government is going to borrow it, but borrowing will be distributed. Borrowing may be used for paying the GST compensation to the state. So after its February budget announcement of 12.05 trillion of gross market borrowing in the month of May, the government said that it may have to borrow an additional 1.58 trillion from the market in order to meet out the GST fall. So in the month of May, government said that it may have to borrow. May have to borrow means it is not necessarily depending on the GST collection situation. Government may have to borrow 1.85 trillion. However, now based on the calculation and increased GST collection, government is now pondering over that this particular extra borrowing 1.58 trillion is now not required. So whatever government had planned in the month of May for extra borrowing in order to repay the GST compensation to the states, that particular plan has now been postponed, and as per the government mathematical calculation, government do not need to borrow this 1.58 trillion extra in order to pay the GST compensation to the states. That can be adjusted from the government revenue without disturbing the market. So government filhal ke liye is not going to disrupt the market, is not going to have the crowding out effect. What is crowding out effect? You write on comment section, tell me what is crowding out effect in case of borrowing, government borrowing. So government said that government is not going to borrow additional. Whatever whatever borrowing target has been set in the budget announcement, that will be followed, and all state will get the compensation from that borrowing. But the number could still change at the end as per the economists. But economists have something different. They have entirely different view. They are saying that the central's overall gross borrowing will be lower than what was projected after adjusting for GST compensation for the states. And whatever government is assuming, whatever government is thinking, pondering for this particular GST collection and borrowing, whatever math government is using, that may be changed in at the end of time. Why? Because it is a very heroic assumption that government is making, and could be done if the entire disinvestment target, if this particular whatever government is saying as per the economist, is only possible when the disinvestment target of this particular budget year, that is 1.75 trillion, is on track. Then only government can say that I will not borrow extra, we will not borrow extra. But announcing before that we are not going to borrow extra from the market, we are not going to disrupt the market, is actually the heroic assumption. It cannot be committed yet. So as per the few economists, this is one of the over optimism that government is saying. Probably at the end of the year, at the end of the timing, government may have to borrow because of the shortfall in revenue, because of the shortfall in GST collection, because of the unpaid compensation to the state. So beside the relief to telecom companies would lead to loss at non-tax revenue front, which could be between 10,000 crore to 20,000 crore. So whatever package government has planned for telecom companies, that could also increase the need of borrowing as per the expert. And fiscal deficit could still be higher as the funding is not coming from the market borrowing, but instead from the small saving as per the few economists. So situation is entirely different as per the economist and as per the government. Government is saying that we are not going to borrow, we are not going to increase the fiscal deficit target. Experts or economists are saying that okay, for now be quiet, in future it will be decided whether you people actually borrow or not, because things are entirely different. So these are the few numbers to borrow 5.03 trillion in the October and March. That is the second half of this financial year. Center will use definitely this cash balance for residual payments of GST compensation to the states in the second half of the year. And government says that, government here means center government, we will not borrow extra. So whatever budget, whatever we have planned, fiscal deficit target we have planned in our budget, we will try to remain stick on it. But definitely, expert economist has different view on it. Now Let's see article number 4 that is given on page number 6. Center to take up new security clearance framework with RBI. So the government is set to initiate the consultation with whom? With RBI. For what? To devise the new security clearance framework. Security clearance framework for what? For potential bidder of public sector banks as it kickstart the privatization process. As we all know, number of time we have discussed in our news analysis that government is on his toes to privatize the public sector banks and public sector undertakings, and it is most likely that government will keep only 5 to 4 big public sector banks and consolidate other public sector banks or privatize or merge them with the big one. And for that, government is now in consultation with RBI, where government and RBI unanimously decide the security clearance framework for bidders, those who are bidding for public sector banks. Why? Because now government wants to increase the privatization process in order to achieve its disinvestment target for the year, as we have discussed in the previous news. That what is the disinvestment target for this financial year? That is 1.75 trillion. So definitely through land monetization, through different asset monetization, through public sector bank privatization, government will try to collect the maximum revenue, because the time period left is very less. And as per the expert and as per the economists, the pace of privatization or disinvestment is not as per the standard, is not as per the budgeted announcement. And that is why with the beginning of strategic disinvestment of IDBI Bank, government is now trying to kickstart the privatization process of public sector, other public sector banks. So now government of India, DIPAM. What is DIPAM? Department of Investment and Public Asset Management, and RBI, they all are working together in order to chalk out the new security features. So basically, after privatizing the IDBI, now second phase, government is thinking or looking to privatize 2 other public sector bank, and for that DIPAM is looking to put in place an appropriate framework, as the potential buyer will have to meet the RBI's requirement. Then only these bidders will be allowed to acquire the stake into these public sector banks, and the process of bank privatization would be different from sale of any other public sector undertaking. Why? Because banks or banking industry is backbone of any economy, and that is why at the time of selection of bidder or at the time of selection of buyer, they have to be very careful that whatever new buyers are coming into this particular industry, they should be financially prudent, they should be financially strong, their credit worthiness should be high, their capital and other financial parameters or indicators should be very strong. And that is why more restrictions and more measures will have to be put in place if government really want to privatize the public sector banks, and RBI is going to play a very important role at the time of selection of buyer, at the time of selection of or potential bidder, as well as in the whole privatization process. As a potential buyer of IDBI and 2 other PSBs will need to meet the RBI's fit and proper criteria in order to get the share into public sector bank. So DIPAM is planning to bring the central bank on the board to vet the candidate in the very first step, so that the process of privatization of the bank remain prudence and discipline even at a very first phase, so that banking industry, strength of banking industry will not be shaken in future with the participation of weak companies or weak investors, or not debilitate the financial health or the economic health of the country. So this is the process that is going to be followed in the banking privatization process, and now government DIPAM and RBI is working to create the new security framework for filtration of the potential bidders and subsequently buyers. And by having good and appropriate and effective security framework, there will be chances that only suitable candidates will get the entry into the bidding process, and eventually suitable candidates will get the share and in the privatization of public sector banks. Now let's see few other news clips. Organized sector writes out second wave government. So as per the new quarterly employment survey, 9 organized non-farm sectors provided job to 29% more people during the first quarter of the current financial year. So new official employment survey indicate that there are nine sector non-farm sector has actually increased the employment in the first quarter of financial or current financial year. So 9 non-farm sector has increased the employment. Generally there is a view that because of the pandemic there is high unemployment, but as per the new quarterly employment survey, few sectors have seen the increase in employment generation, and few sectors are there that have seen the increase in unemployment. And however, if we talk about the two services sector, which are two services sector? Trade, accommodation and restaurants. So trade, accommodation and restaurants were battered by the wave, this particular second and first wave, and job generation thereby declined 25% and 13% respectively over this period of time, and showed a first revamped quarterly employment survey QES. So there are few sectors that have seen the decrease in employment, or we can say rise in unemployment, especially trade and accommodation and restaurant sector. On the other hand, there are other services sectors just like IT, BPO. They hired more than 152%, in some cases over 100% increase in terms of their employment generation. So IT has seen 152% hike in their employment generation. BPO has seen approximately 77% hike in their employment generation. Healthcare sector has also seen more than 70% employment generation. So there are few services sectors into which the employment generation has increased, just like healthcare, IT, BPO, followed by transportation services, financial services, education. All these particular sectors have seen the increase in employment, rising employment generation in the very first quarter of current financial year, instead of the impact of COVID-19 second wave. So except trade and accommodation and restaurant, if we discuss about the sectors, so except trade, accommodation and restaurant, other sectors like manufacturing, education, construction, financial services, transport, health, IT, BPO, all these sectors have seen the growth in quarter 1 of financial year 22, and if we can easily see the growth in terms of percentage. And employment generation in 9 organized non-farm sector has increased up to 29.95%. Apart from it, there is another survey, and at that per survey, 81% received the full wages in the COVID first wave. So an overwhelming 81% of worker in 9 organized non-farm sector received the full wages, even as only about 27% of the establishment cut the job during the COVID-induced nationwide lockdown during the first wave. So this particular employment survey is all about the impact of COVID-19 first wave and second wave on employment generation, on unemployment increase. And as per this news, 81% of the companies have actually given, or 81% of the employees, or we can say labor, has actually received the full wage in the first wave of COVID-19. It means only 27% of the establishment has cut the wages or actually not increase the salary into the COVID-19 pandemic, and more specifically the first nationwide lockdown during COVID-19 pandemic. So even at the time of lockdown, 81% of the labor had received their full wages. And this is the job scenario graph as per the new quarterly employment survey. And we can see manufacturing, construction, transport, education, health, accommodation, restaurant, IT, BPIs, financial services. Most of the sectors have basically found no change in terms of their employment scenario. And except IT, except accommodation, restaurant, and trade, most of the sectors have seen increase in their employment generation when during the first nationwide lockdown. So finally there is a survey that is going on, and in this survey basically government is actually analyzing the impact of nationwide lockdown on employment generation. Why? Because if you remember, there was so much rumor, or maybe information at that time, that because of nationwide lockdown, India has seen the highest number of unemployment in last 40 years. And because of this, government is going for this sort of surveys in order to really understand the impact of a lockdown or pandemic on employment generation, and so that a new policy framework, a suitable policy framework, can be prepared. And as per the survey, 70% firms did not cut their job. In fact, health sector and few other sectors have found increase in their employment generation. Now let's see some other article. BPCL privatization by March end. So as per the chairman of BPCL, what is BPCL? Bharat Petroleum Corporation Limited, and it is one of the PSU that is under the target of government of India for what? For privatization. And as per the chairman, Mr. Arun Kumar Singh, the privatization of BPCL is going to be completed by the end of March 22. So in one AGM, this veteran has announced that government is actually working on many fronts, and it is most likely that this particular transaction will get complete within this financial year. Why this particular news has been covered by Business Standard? Because there are certain agencies or research consultancy firms, they were actually noting that there may be delay in BPCL sell-off. Which company, which rating agency has said that? That is Fitch. Fitch has recently noted that because of certain due diligence process, there are uncertainty over bidder selection, and that is why the sell-off process of BPCL may get delayed, and that is why the chairman of this particular company, that is BPCL, has cleared the rumor and said that into this financial year this privatization will be completed. So that's all for today, students. If you want lecture PDF, you can join my Telegram channel. You can also follow me on other social media platforms. If you have any query and suggestion, you can write on comment section below. Please like, share and subscribe. Thank you.